Sorry, everyone. Trying to delete this invitation. Okay. So here's the approximate agenda. My name is Hyson Choi. I'm one of the co-founders of Sunny Smiles. Today we will have 4 to 5 speakers. The schedule's actually changed because some of our speakers were called into the hospital. But at the end, after each speaker, we hope you will have time for a Q&A, and at the very end, you will get information about how to get IPE credit for attending this webinar if you're here for that. And Fabia, I don't know if you want to talk a little about how they are going to be able to get the link and apply for IPE. My bad, everyone. I muted everybody.
Hi, can everyone hear me now? Yeah,
okay.
Technical difficulties, but we made it, so it's good. Hi, everyone. My name is Fabiha Sabin. I'm the social and media communications person for Sunny Smiles Initiative. And I just wanted to quickly make an announcement about IPE credit for those who are in UNM. And basically, this event counts as an informative a category for IPE event, and I will send out the survey for the event towards the end of it. So once you have participated, you can just fill out the survey afterwards for this to be counted as an informative event. But yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, so we will get started with just a quick introduction about what we do, just for people who are not as familiar with our group, and then we'll get right onto it. And before I do that, I'm gonna just make sure that I'm gonna unmute Richard. Sorry, Richard. Okay.
Hasten, before we go for the introduction,
yeah.
I just wanted to let you know, I wanted to tell those who are in Uganda and other countries other than the US that there will be certificates of attendance. So Fabiha will put in the chat a simple Google form for you to, so that we capture your details. Yes, so please fill that form so that we can get your name, get your name and then your email address, so that it will be easy for us to send you a certificate. Then those in the US, I think Fabi has covered that. Thank you.
All right, awesome. So before each speaker, I'll unmute you individually. Sorry, I didn't realize the power that I had. So from the 5 presentations that we had scheduled, Dr. Maria and Dr. McGuire actually won't be able to attend because they, given their important duties and their professions, which, allow them to speak here, they were called into the hospital for life-saving duties. So we'll mix it up a little bit, but I just hope you'll enjoy and get something out of it regardless. So we'll get started. I'll speak a little bit, Richard will speak a little bit, but for those of you who are not as familiar with our group, we're Sunny Smiles. Oh, see a chat. We are a nonprofit composed of medical students at UNM, University of New Mexico School of Medicine, and Uganda medical students, as well as medical. And some of the findings that we've done about 3 outreaches since our beginning, and some of the findings that we got based on the survey that we give is on the figure on the right, and it's quite shocking, and but it's what inspires us to go on these outreaches, continue to go on these outreaches and improve, and just bring more awareness to the severity of period poverty in certain regions of the world. Oops. And so it's part of why we do our outreach. It's part of why we do this webinar. If some of you attended the Period Equity Day that we held at UNM a few months ago, this kind of increasing awareness is part of our goal as well. Richard, do you want to speak a little bit before we dive into the speakers? Can you talk now, Richard?
Okay. Yes, I'm in a position to talk. Yeah. So literally that's what we do here in Uganda. We just want to make sure menstrual hygiene is very safe for everyone. We reach out to villages, as Hassan said, and then refugee hit areas. Technically, what we're doing there, when we go, we teach girls and then young adults and people find there from adolescence, puberty, how to take care of themselves during menstruation. We do teach them how to make reusable sanitary towels. We give out, as you know, sanitary, especially the reusables and very many other things. So literally today we wanted to cover something with you, and we have very, very wonderful, interesting topics, and then very wonderful, interesting speakers on board here. So you can't afford to miss. So we just encourage you to stay on, and then we keep going. So in case you want to know more about us, we will put our website, in the link, and the details on our social medias, and then we will keep going. At least I can see our speakers already here. I can see Esther in here. I can see Winter. So you're all welcome. Yeah, welcome. So nice to have you around. So Hassan, I think we can keep going. Can have the first speaker.
And let me know if I pull up the wrong presentation, etc.
No, yeah, this is good. Thank you so much, Hassan. So hi, everyone. My name is Fabiha Sabin. I'm a third-year medical student at UNM School of Medicine. I am actually originally from a country called Bangladesh, which is next to India in South Asia. And basically, I just wanted to give a quick background of myself before I kind of moved into the conversation about this. But I moved to New Mexico when I was a teenager. And before moving to New Mexico, I had the opportunity to be a part of many menstrual health outreach events with my mother, who is actually an OB-GYN in Bangladesh. So I guess with the exposure to a lot of menstrual health outreach events, I was able to see in Bangladesh that period poverty is visible in more than 95% of the female population. And this is something that is very personal to me, because I can understand and see how it can affect people who cannot afford sanitary pads, and it can lead to illnesses as well as increased absences from school and work. And it can have a lot of far-reaching outcomes with menstrual health and hygiene. So my interests and experiences with me basically brought me to Sunny Smiles Initiative. And I think this is a really wonderful program, and I really hope that people can be more involved. And so essentially, Hassan, can you go to the next slide? Yeah, so essentially, just a quick background about the social stigma that we see throughout the world with menstrual health, and starting from Bangladesh, which is when I started experiencing this and seeing that. Other countries such as Nepal has this idea of the chaupadi, which is basically locations where menstruating women are isolated so that they can be separated from other people in poorly ventilated huts and cowshed. So this is actually also seen in Bangladesh too, in some locations in northern and southern Bangladesh. And other countries such as Bali have women who are not allowed to enter kitchen or enter the temples even when they're menstruating, because it's considered to be unsanitary. And in terms of the stigma, they are treated as unclean, impure, shameful, and even untouchable when they're having their menstruation. As well as restrictions, you can see a lot of restrictions in taking part in holy events and religious festivals. This is widespread in Bangladesh, where Eid is a holiday that is celebrated in Bangladesh, and many women are stopped from going to a lot of holy events. And this is prevalent in other places as well, and not just in Bangladesh, but in Uganda as well, where women are treated as less than because of their menstruation. And they're also not allowed to bath using communal taps. Next slide. So in terms of barrier to menstrual hygiene, it's good to take into consideration countries where they have like experiences where women are treated as less than others. So where they are treated as, bathing in separate places, staying in different rooms of the houses, and not being able to go to school or work, avoiding social gatherings. And as you can see, it is considered a matter of shyness in many countries because of the isolation and menstruation as linked with sin in various cultures as well. Yeah, next slide. So kind of talking more about the major barriers that we see in the community in terms of menstrual hygiene, we notice poor knowledge and disposal practices, lack of social support, the taboo that I kind of mentioned, as well as access to sanitation facilities, which are very much hindered because of the financial issues that is very prevalent in many parts of the world, including Uganda. And so kind of going back and talking about each of them as a model, we can see that with public policy, there's ineffective implementation of menstruation policies, as well as in communities, there's the cultural and social taboos, and there are not enough socioeconomic outlets where we can, maintain menstrual hygiene. And I think a very big thing to consider is that there are so many girls who become absent in schools and work because menstruation is a big problem. And there are gender unfriendly school culture and infrastructure, which represent how social and cultural taboos exist in these institutions and not just in homes or daily life for a lot of girls and women. And yeah, so I mean, kind of going back to the financial issues as well, there are not enough facilities as well as education involving menstrual health. Next slide. So kind of going back and talking more about menstruation and how it can affect all aspects of a girl's life. The biggest thing is definitely education. As we know, education is the future of women and girls in most parts of the world, and the workforce is in terms of women are very much hindered because of menstruation, which can have very far-reaching effects. So girls will be missing school during their periods due to lack of facilities or necessary supplies, as well as economically, women will be missing work if they don't have access to the supplies and facilities that they need. In terms of health, there are lots of health outcomes and illnesses, infections, and just to name an example where women and girls can't talk about this or access facilities or places where they can reach out. Ultimately, it's about dignity. Girls suffer from discomfort and they feel very often that they're teased and shamed and excluded from everyday activities. And there are very specific examples, which I've said, like the Chaupali. And in Uganda as well, this is something that's very prevalent. And I think ultimately it's about participation and women not feeling empowered when they are menstruating, which is a normal experience for all women. So for most women, and it's just something to be considered. Next slide. So this is just a quick start on what we can do, and ultimately we'll be talking more about this as we go, because this is what Sunny Smiles Initiative is for. Ultimately, we want to do something about this, and I hope that all of us can also do something about this in our own ways, because there's always something that we can do globally as well as locally too, wherever we're from. So ultimately, we have to be able to empower the community that we are from with knowledge about menstrual health and hygiene through addressing the social stigma and taboo, which is very much prevalent as a very root thing in many societies, not just in one part of the world, as I was talking about, as well as interpersonal and institutional support for menstruating girls and women, and education, which is something that we as Sunny Smiles Initiative are.
Ananı sikeyim. Fuck you. Sana fobiç orospu çocukları. Ananızı sikeyim. Ananızı. Amına kodumun
I got it.
evlatları.
Okay, yeah.
Aynen. Sesim geliyor mu sesim?
Did you get it, Hesse?
Did anyone catch the name of that person?
No.
Uh,
I think
okay,
it's
I'm gonna go back. Go
I
ahead,
think
sorry.
it's the sub alti. Hesap HESAP.
Oh, okay.
Got it. You guys are great.
Yes, teamwork.
Yay.
All right. So yeah, continuing my topic of discussion. As Sunny Smiles Initiative, we are encouraging interpersonal and institutional support for menstruating girls and women through education as something to consider a lot, because knowledge and information can really result in dignity of adolescent girls and women. Access to safe menstrual products, and that's something also we are really looking towards, as well as safe disposal of used menstrual absorbents, and teaching girls and women in Uganda to learn more about this, because in many spaces they are not able to talk about this. Ultimately, it's a communal effect. It's something that we can all do together, and I am really grateful that a lot of people are interested and are already, looking forward to working more with everyone in this project. Next slide. Yeah, so that concludes my presentation. It's very short, but there's so much more to really discuss and talk about as we go forward in this webinar. So I look forward to working with everyone who's interested in this. So yeah, thank you very much. And again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask.
Thanks so much, Fabia. I think this was a really great first presentation, and especially, the stigma, especially the part where some of the girls, when they start their periods, they stop going to school. I remember that was actually one of the main reasons we started this project, or something like one of the big factors that was brought up at the beginning of a project, where you don't go to school, and it was impacting not just, it wasn't just humiliation, it was impacting their economic status and empowerment and autonomy, and, unsafe for teenage pregnancy, etc. down the line. So this is such a big part to go kind of really be aware of. I'm really happy that this was our first part of this presentation. Richard, do you have any comments?
Well, what I can say is, I think from her presentation, you can realize that menstrual hygiene is something which should be tackled like across the globe. So, she was giving a Bangladesh background, but you see, they also have very many things going on there. So, sometimes when we sit wherever we are in the urban, in wonderful places, we might think that things are going on very well just because they're not affecting you. But when you go down there, I can tell you, we've been to villages and people are using papers, like, a paper, someone plucks out a piece of paper from her book, like the book she uses to write on, and then puts it in her underwear because she's bleeding. And when we were in Mayuge, I think the percentage, we had above 60% of girls who had never seen a disposable sanitary towel. Just imagine that. So, and then you ask yourself, what were they using? And then, all the pain they go through and stuff. So this is something we should encourage on. So thank you, Fabiha, for bringing that up. Yes, so that's what I have.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Fabia? You can comment, you can wave, you can unmute yourself. You can also ask at the end. You will have time. Right. I don't see any questions at the moment, so we can move on to our next speaker. Sorry.
I think I have a question. This is Gilbert presentation from there, and basically, you see, well, from the experience I've had in the community that I work in, usually we always live out like the parents. Usually, it all starts from home, but how do the parents also perceive this? Because when it comes to the wrong perceptions they have towards menstruation, sometimes it affects the kids. Like there's some parents whereby they say like, with your first period, you must not do this, you must not. So those myths, sometimes they make a very bad impact towards this menstruation. Like, they have like literally a bad perception towards it. Like you're not supposed to talk about it freely. You're not supposed to tell anyone. I mean, you're supposed to dispose your first part maybe somewhere so that all those kind of myths that people believe in, like they are really making like the life of a girl or a woman out.
All right, thank you. So, well, Dr. Marvin Ahumuza, I think, stated a very wonderful point in the chat. The role of men in promoting menstrual hygiene is something very important. At some point, as we grew up, we realized it's mothers, it's ladies, this is a female thing, but which is not the case. So it's very important that as men who are here, we should stand up and make sure that this is not a female issue. It's all our issue. So I was talking to a colleague and then asked me two things. Okay, we were just having a talk. The first thing was, no one determines or no one decides, like when you're in your mother's womb, that you'll be a female or a male. So in most cases, it's chance. And then boys do have wet dreams and stuff, you understand? And girls do menstruate. So assuming that you actually weren't a boy, of course you would have been a girl. And if it was not for a female person, a boy wouldn't have been born. So it's collective effort. And whatever hits a boy should hit a girl, and whatever hits a girl should hit a boy. That's the way, but yes. So thank you very much, Gilbert. And yes, Gilbert and Fabiha. All right, I think we go on, Hesen.
Okay, awesome. So we'll move on to our next speaker, Elena. She will also be talking about social economic barriers with a slightly different perspective. Are you ready to speak? Are you, wait, I think I need to unmute you.
Yes, I'm ready to speak.
Okay. Let me know when to flip the slides.
Okay, so basically a brief history, a brief bit about myself. I'm Elena Ayesije, and I work with Period Talk Uganda, and we are more of a movement, and we aim to fight period poverty through dismantling period stigma, creating positive, educative, supportive, and safe spaces for menstruators, so that they can be able to fully enjoy their human rights. And I've worked with Sunny Smiles on, I think I worked with Dr. Richard, yes, and other members of Sunny Smiles in a recent period outreach where we visited a certain school that had a number of menstruators, and were trying to dismantle some stigma surrounding periods, and we're trying to create more of an inclusive space and positive space for the young children, and including the boys, on how to be more supportive and understand periods. And it was actually successful. Yes. So I'm going to talk about this to add on to what the previous speaker talked about the social and economic barriers. I think she talked about what I was going to present, basically I don't have more of a different perspective from her, but I have more of additional points to put across. So in trying to create and promote menstrual hygiene, it's very important to always understand what exactly menstrual hygiene connotes to, and basically it's more of menstrual hygiene management, and it requires girls to have access. Okay, menstruators to have access to their menstrual health materials and products, especially those of choice, and also extends to having private and clean safe spaces to use these materials. And more of these materials have to be obviously of sufficient quality and quantity. We have seen whereby we purchase certain products and they're not very healthy. We are affected. Okay, many menstruators are affected by various menstrual products, and all many times we are just given the available products and we're not able to choose. So menstrual hygiene connotes, like, it's very broad and connotes to a number of variables, not just cleanliness, connotes to choice, freedom, dignity, and very many other things, and comfort and comfort in regards to our periods, and how we manage them, how we appropriately and safely manage them. So why is it important? So we are going to realize that menstrual hygiene is really important in us as women and menstruators, in enabling us to tap into our various potentials, especially in very many spheres that are social, political, cultural, and economic. And you're going to realize that poor menstrual hygiene management actually is a barrier and hindrance to our progress and our development into being fully integrated humans and people all into it's a big barrier into creating a fully integrated community. And you're going to realize that good menstrual hygiene management interlinks with various human rights, for example, dignity, gender equality, and reproductive health. And it interlocks with various SDGs. So in order, when we realize proper and effective menstrual hygiene management, we are able to realize a couple of sustainable development goals. For instance, we are able to realize gender equality. We are able to realize good health and well-being. Then we are able to realize decent work and economic growth, because when we live, because as I explained, menstrual hygiene encompasses a lot of variables, and these variables include being safe in our periods. So having period-friendly work environments contributes to decent work condition and also increases productivity. And then when you look at even access to clean water and sanitation is also important in managing our period safely and hygienically. So that is SDG number 6. And when you look at SDG number 12, which is responsible consumption and production. So menstrual products are of single use, and some contain certain elements and also contribute to waste challenges. So you're going to realize that with proper menstrual hygiene, we are able to actualize a number of sustainable development goals, even quality education. When menstruators are able to have equitable access to a number of products, they're able to fully tap into their potential, especially pursue their education and so on and so forth. So next slide of social and economic. I think I finished this slide. The next slide of social and economic barriers.
So I was told that Sorry, I was told that you can't see the slides. Is that true?
No, I can't. I can't see my slide.
Okay, we can. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we can. Okay, never mind. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So the previous speaker, yes, talked about a number of social and economic barriers. So I don't have a lot to add, but I can add this. When we are looking at barriers to menstrual hygiene, it's not more of it's not only about access to pads. It's a lot more than having pads, and even ending and even promoting and overseeing good menstrual hygiene management. It doesn't only take free menstrual pads. It takes a lot, and it takes a lot of effort from various sectors to actually oversee a proper menstrual hygiene management. And when you look at the very many barriers, and when you're looking at solutions to these challenges, it's very important that we tackle this solution one by one, like look at them individually in order to be able to address them. So we looked at the constant stigmatization of menstruation. We look at girls often in many communities looked at as dirty or impure just for being in their periods. Or there is a lot of fear and shame that is surrounds menstrual hygiene as a result of stigmatization. And this stigmatization has inhibited the mobility and participation in society of very many menstruators. And this has created social isolation and impacted girls mentally and emotionally. Making girls feel that they are dirty and impure has made them feel uncomfortable in social situations, reduce their productivity. Some cannot engage in very many social activities. So when we are looking at this problem, it's very important to look at it when we are trying to promote a period hygiene management. It's very important to look at these problems single-handedly and tackle them and look at the individual needs of each menstruator, because as some menstruators are not facing constant stigmatization because they come from liberal environment, there are others who are facing an issue of equitable access to menstrual products. For example, girls from low socioeconomic backgrounds, or when you look at the individual needs of persons living with disability, you find some of them their disability does not enable them to effectively clean themselves during their menstruation. So that begs the question of what are we doing for these people? Because when we look at it as in a blanket-like situation, we are going to ignore individual needs of each menstruator. So it's important to look at these individual needs, especially for women, for menstruators living with disability. Some have, there is access to water, let's say, but it's not equitable. Or they are unable to access it due to their disability, though water is available. So what are we exactly doing for those menstruators? So the issue of tackling and promoting menstrual hygiene management, it needs various stakeholders coming together, partnering together, and addressing the individual needs of these menstruators. Otherwise, you have a very a long way to go. And then also, I mentioned about girls from low socioeconomic background. You're going to realize that girls from low socioeconomic background do not have easy access or equitable access to menstrual products. As a result, they engage in transactional sex, which puts them at a very high risk of infections. and early pregnancy and whatnot. So that's why I say it's very important to address the individual needs of every girl. Look at the barriers critically and look at what population is at risk under such situations to be able to enable girls. I mean enable menstruators. Then another challenge and challenge to menstrual hygiene management is a lack of awareness. So we are going to realize that most of us, if not many of us, before we got our first period, we had little or no information about what menstruation is. So many menstruators, when they experience their first period, they're actually in shock. Like they've never heard about it. They don't know what to do next. So this lack of awareness stems from the fact that we as a society, we don't like to talk about our periods. We don't want to normalize conversations surrounding menstruation. We look at it as something very unclean, something so private. Even our parents feel ashamed to talk about it. And this also stems from our cultures and social norms, where we don't want to, such conversations are seen as, should I say, promiscuous, like anything concerning our reproductive system or reproductive health, seen as something very, to talk about it, something very uncouth. So our parents barely prepare us. Parents barely prepare young girls about periods, about menstruation. Even the sex education we receive from schools is not exhaustive. It's not exhaustive. It's more of basic. It doesn't go deep down into talking to like the personal, deep down into the personal aspects of menstruation. Our guardians, and various stakeholders are basically ashamed, embarrassed about talking about it. So it's very important to normalize conversations around menstruation, and this creates acceptance of menstruation. And as a result, we're going to see that many taboos will be dismantled in the process. You understand? Instead of looking at periods as something very secretive, because this is a normal aspect of very many young women and girls. This is something that we go through monthly. Shouldn't this looked at as something that is very out of the ordinary? No, something that we ought to normalize. And as I talked about access to products, I believe that it should be equitable, because there is having access to products, but then the resources or the product are concentrated in a particular area, like me say urban centers, and then few menstruators in rural areas are unable to access those products. So it's very important to have equitable access to the products in order to promote good menstrual hygiene. So I believe basically there are very many ways that can be done. As I said, it needs a partnership with various stakeholders, because we have seen governments do a lot into progressing this menstrual hygiene management. We have seen how governments, I think it's in India, where they made menstrual hygiene management as part of the education in the government schools curriculum. So that's very good. That's very good. And it's as a step ahead into promoting menstrual hygiene management. Then we've also seen various agencies do advancement. And these advancements have helped in dismantling myths surrounding menstruation, have helped in eradicating that whole idea of periods ought to be a secret. No, see, we need to talk about issues. Yes.
Hi, sorry. I'm so sorry to cut you off. Just to make sure we have time for all the other speakers, I'm going to ask you if you can wrap it up in the next few minutes, but I do see that we have a question. So you can please feel free to answer question from Mary after your presentation.
Question from Mary. I can't see it. Okay. In my conclusion, so I.
Yeah, as you open the slides, just make sure you register. I'm putting a link in the chat, so register so that we can be able to capture your name and we'll be able to send you a certificate of attendance. That would be, yeah. So as the presentation go on, please.
Winter, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Lord, the stage is
Hi,
yours.
everyone. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Winter Olivia. I'm a co-founder of Eco Options Uganda. That's basically a company that sells menstrual cups. And okay, we're just trying to make the menstrual period as comfortable as possible for everyone, for menstruators. So we sell menstrual cups, hip patches, and menstrual underwear. Yeah, that's basically it. My computer is giving me a hard time, so I've just resorted to using my phone for this presentation because it's working in a better way. So I'm going to talk about economic and health comparisons of the different period resources. Yeah, next slide. So basically the different period resources we have are pads that we have the disposable pads and the reusable pads. Then we have tampons that has disposable. Then we have the menstrual cup that's reusable. So these are the different period products that I've tried out and that I know about for now. There are also menstrual discs, but I don't think they are very commonly used by many people. Yeah, and they're also reusable, but I didn't consider them in this case because I don't think it's a common resource that is used. Yeah. Next slide, please. So I'm going to start with the economic comparisons, and I used Ugandan shillings, but I'm just going to try to translate it to dollars so that like the different people who joined can, like I've noticed some people are not from Uganda, so they may not understand the prices very well. So I'll just use dollars because it's a more universal currency than the Uganda shillings. So basically, I just try to break it down to the cost. Yeah, you're right. About the dollars. So I tried to break it down to the cost of how many cost the packs use per month, the packs use yearly, and the expenditure per year, so that we can have a comparison of what everyone is using. So as you can see, the disposable pad is between, that's like $1, it's around $1 or like $1.2, something like that. Then the reusable pads are around $2.5. Then the tampons are like $3 to $10. And the menstrual cup, I used, this is the price to basically sell at, which is around, I think, $15. So if someone is menstruating for an average of 5 days in a month, every month, and they use about 2 to 4 pads every day, they'll be using around 2 packs of period pads, because usually the pads that are sold in Uganda, the normal sizes come with 8 pads per pack, so those are 16 pads, and one can use an average of 2 packs per day. And then for the reusable pads, of course, you need 2 because you have to wash one. You need at least 2 to 3 because you have to wash one, and then it dries, and then you can use another one. Then for tampons, the big packs usually have 16 to 24 tampons per pack unless you buy the small ones, but the big ones have 16 to 24, so you can end up using 1 pack per period. Then the menstrual cup comes as 1 cup, so you use 1 cup since you just wash it. After using it, you just wash it and put it in. So, okay, for this presentation, I'm just assuming everyone is familiar with how the different period resources work, but I can give you like an overview of how they work. Like the pads, the disposable pads are stuck onto the panty, then they're reusable. The same as the disposable, just that the way you put them, there's like a button so you can open, put it off and put it back. Then tampons are tiny, I think like this tiny, and they are inserted into the vagina. The same as the menstrual cup, it's folded and inserted into the vagina. So that's how the different resources work. It's just a brief explanation, but I'm assuming everyone sort of knows what they look like and how they work. So continuing the presentation, packs used per year. If you're using 2 pads, Aya has 24, Aya has 12 months, sorry, Aya has 12 months. So if you're using 2 pads per month, you're going to use about 24 or more. Then the reusable pads, you'll use 2. If those are the ones you can use, then the packs of tampons, you use 12. Then the menstrual cup, you always use 1. So that's the average expenditure the average expenditure of each of the different products per year. And you can see for the reusable, this expenditure can be divided. The menstrual cup, it can also be divided for 8 to 10 years, since you can use it for those amount of years. But then the disposable, this is how much you'll be spending every year, because once you use it, you're going to be disposing of the pads, so you can't use it again. So that's how much you'll be spending every year. But these other expenditures can be divided. So you can see for like a usable pad, if you use it for 3 years, you'll be spending around 6,000 per year. And if you use it for 7 years, you're going to be spending around 3,000 per year. And for the menstrual cup, if you use it for 10 years, you're going to be spending around 5,000 per year. That's about $1 per year. Yeah. So next slide. Next slide, please. So the other thing I still talk about are the health comparisons. So I'm going to start with hygiene. Hygiene, basically, I'm going to consider mostly water used. When you're using the disposable resources, you don't really use water because you're just removing it. And because with the quality of pads sold in Uganda especially, usually if you don't change it as frequently as possible, it may start to smell a certain way. If you have it for like more than 6 hours, you may start to smell a certain way. And also I think the fact, I learned this when I started using the cup, is that the blood comes and it's actually on your body when you're using like a pad. So you have to shower and make sure you're really hygienic. Yeah. And then, so for the disposable resources, the disposable pads and the tampons, you really don't have a high water effect because you're going to use them and throw them away. But then a menstrual cup, it's like a little cup. I really wish I had carried mine, and I would show for who have not seen before. It's like a little cup, so it doesn't need water for you to wash it. But then also it needs you to use warm water, and maybe some people will not have access to the warm water. So for those, you put it in sunlight for a few minutes, for like 10 minutes, so that the germs are killed. And that's usually at the start and end of your period. So that's the hygiene part. You have to be really hygienic. Now with the reusable pads, I find them a bit of a problem because you have to use a lot of water to wash it a lot of water and soap to wash it and make sure it's clean before you use it. Also, for it to dry. And just commenting on what my previous speakers said about the social and economic, the social factors. We did an outreach in Kasese last year, and they told us some people are given reusable pads and they can't actually put them out to dry because like being in your period is seen as a really big deal. So like you can't actually put your pads out there because people are not supposed to know you're in your period. People are not supposed to see things like your pads. So it's a bit hard for them to use it because someone will use a reusable pad, wash it and keep it under the bed. It will not dry and that will put them at a risk of getting infections. So yeah, we should just dismantle the whole period, the whole negative things about periods because it really disturbs very many communities. So the other health thing is the risk of toxic shock syndrome. Toxic shock syndrome is a rare occurrence, but it's when a certain unwanted bacteria grows inside your vagina because of like the menstrual product you're using. It's mostly common for people who use tampons, and if you keep it inside for a long time, it can grow bacteria around it and cause toxic shock syndrome, which is a risk. It's mainly in tampons, and I don't think it's very rare in cups and pads, any type of pads. So that's another health tampons. For pads, especially the subscriptions is for the pads we have enough, especially like in Uganda. There are certain brands that a few hours they call a rash vulva, like that's the outside part of your reproductive part is called the vulva. Yeah, they cause an irritation on the vulva and also maybe in between the thighs, and it's because you don't have your period. Also, it doesn't discriminate that this is blood, this is vagina.
Did your audio break, Winter?
I think she might have left because of network, but she was actually bringing up very wonderful points, Like
yes.
very wonderful points.
We'll give her a bit to come back, but yes, good points about. That was a very nice table. I see that some people in the comments wants the presentations. They will be made available on our website as well as the recording of this Zoom session.
Yeah, she's back, but then notice one of the wonderful points she was putting out is, in Uganda, people we do know the reusable sanitary pads, I would say not the disposables, and then cups. Menstrual cups, according to what she's saying, save that they're a little bit expensive, but they are very wonderful. So it's something I've picked out, and it's really very impressive, So Winter, you're back, and please, you can keep going.
Maybe I need to unmute her again. Give me a second. Yep. Okay, you should be able to speak now.
Yeah, I hope you guys can hear me. So I was talking about that tampons, they don't discriminate whatever they are absorbing. So they absorb everything, which is actually not healthy for a woman because the vaginal fluid. Oh, I've muted, but to comment on Jeremiah, it's not really like for virgins, but it's for people who are comfortable with their bodies, because we are not, it's not really for like non-virgins, but of course it's easier for non-virgins. But we have had virgins who have tried the product, and the thing is, since we know it's hard and we are women and we know even us in the beginning it's hard, if we get someone to like get cups or get a cup from us, we try to keep in touch and ask them about their experience and answer any question, like however stupid that question may sound. Yeah, so it's about how comfortable you are with your body, but yeah, it's actually easier for non-virgins to use, since it removes the hymen element for people who really value it, because it's already punctured or broken. But
Thank you so much, Richard. I'm sorry, I moved back inside because of my computer battery, but that was a very practical and important information about all these different methods and their kind of pros and cons that obviously we have to consider. Richard, would you like to comment about that and then introduce our next speaker?
Yeah, I think, you know, as we go on growing, as we go on, you know, advancing, we have to realize that technology will keep on coming. So formerly, you know, like in African culture, I'm sure even our great-great-mothers didn't have anything like, you know, these disposable standard towels. And then cups are coming in, we have tampons and so forth. So reason as to why we put webinars of the kinds, not necessarily to decide what you should use, but to let out, to open the window for everyone. And then for you to decide. So as per now, menstrual cups could be very, very awesome, you know. Number one, according to from what I've heard, number one, economic-wise, they are great. And then hygiene-wise, they could be. So as we go on, I say advise whoever's on here to keep exploring. And then if you see and you match with what maybe works for you. Bottom line, everyone should have a very safe and wonderful menstrual time. Thank you. Then we're going to have our next presentation. We are having menstruation disorders from Dr. Emmanuel Oklutu. He's one of the most knowledgeable OBGYN person I've known, at least for the time I've been in the medical part. So he's going to be taking us through that. And in case you have questions, please put them down. I'm sure he's going to handle them. Dr. Emmanuel, you're welcome. And yeah, I think I'm asking to unmute.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about the menstrual disorders. It's a big thing because when I sit in the obstetric gynecology clinic, I am able to at least see 6 out of 10 women with menstruation disorders every single day. So it is something that is big and affecting a large group of women actually. And a number of things are cut out from this presentation. So we're basically dive into the presentation in order to save time. So maybe let's have the next slide. Yeah, so there's been a lot of confusion that actually has been making scientific explanations of menstrual disorders difficult. But then this has been rectified by the Federation of International Gynecologists and Obstetricians, the FIGO Menstrual Disorders Working Group. And a number of words have been discarded, as I've put in there, menorrhagia, which previously meant excessive bleeding during menstruation. You know, we talked about things like menorrhagia, bleeding between menstruation, hypermenorrhea, hypomenorrhea, all these different words, dysfunctional, functional uterine bleeding, have been eliminated. And the reason is we need to have a clarity. It's a major presentation of women in the clinics, but it's confusing scientists, and therefore doctors and other health workers are not able to better advise the community rather than also using the same old words. We now choose to use the common acceptable words to have an easier approach to managing these patients. Next slide. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah, so we have some acceptable definitions where now when we talk about menstrual disorders, basically use the word abnormal uterine bleeding. And that means that there's a variation from normal in terms of regularity, frequency in menstruation, duration, or even in the volume of the menstrual flow. And this could be distributed further based on whether they are regular, frequent, the duration it takes, how often it occurs, and how long it has taken, and also the timing in relation to a woman's reproductive status. When we talk about a woman's reproductive status, we're talking about a woman who has not yet reached menstruation, premenstrual woman. That's basically a young girl. And then we have one in reproductive years, that is someone who has reached menstruation, but has not reached the final period, the final menstrual period. That's when they would eventually arrive at something called menopause, when they stop having their menses. And then we also talk about women who have stopped having their menses and have abnormal bleeding. So all these have been captured. For example, in volume, we can say it is heavy menstrual bleeding, it's normal, or it is light menstruation. Regularity, irregular, absent, and the likes. So all these different words, I'll explain them in a few slides so that you can understand what they mean. As you talk to these different menstruators, they should be able to understand what is abnormal and what is normal so that they can seek the appropriate help. The next slide. Yeah, so I'll start with volume. Academically, would think about 5 to 8 mLs. It's difficult to quantify this, but from the previous presentation, you can see that if one used a menstrual cup, we can exactly know how much blood you've lost during one menstrual cycle. And that is important because when we're evaluating women for heavy menstrual bleeding, which is defined as excessive bleeding during menstruation that interferes with a woman's quality of life, which could be physical, emotional, social, material, and it can occur alone or in combination. So when evaluating women for this heavy menstrual bleeding, we often actually recommend using a menstrual cup because there we are able to know exactly how much blood they lose in a single cycle. And if it's more than 8 mLs, we can actually quantify and say it's heavy menstrual bleeding and then do the necessary evaluation and management of these problems. When you say 5 to 8 mLs, we basically, okay, let's have the next slide where we talk about the post-menopausal bleeding and then the precocious. Postmenopausal occurs after menopause, you've stopped your menstruation, and then precocious is that. Next slide, please. Okay, so maybe as the organizing the slide, I can summarize all this up and then say that sometimes we have acute and then we have chronic, and acute means it requires urgent intervention, while chronic means it's occurring over 6 months or more. And all these are problems that could occur with menstruation. Then we have, of course, painful menses. We have painful menses, which is basically cyclic chronic pelvic pain associated with menstruation, which could be primary if it occurs without any particular identified pelvic pathology, usually common in adolescents. And then we have secondary, which is due to pelvic pathology. So when we're managing, we need to take a good history, coagulation screening, and then, laboratory testing. We do some imaging, and then we treat these patients. And so basically what is important is that there should be social support, and then urgent arrival to the doctor's clinic in order for you to get evaluated and managed for these different abnormalities. Yeah, so that's how I could summarize it. Presentation, I think you'll be able to get it from the organizers of it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Emma, for that wonderful presentation. So in case you have any questions for him, please you can either raise up your hand and we unmute you, or you can just type it in the chat. And then concerning abnormal menstruation. So I know some of us, go through a couple of things, a lot of pain, in case you have any questions or anything. So he will stick around, and then we try to answer that, just in case you have any. Yeah, but as you send in your questions, I just want to remind you that make sure you register. Make sure you register so that we can be able to send you a certificate of attendance. So I'm seeing a question here. What are the risk factors for bleeding before 9 years? Dr. Emma, if you could answer that.
Yes, it's a good question. Before 9 years, basically, the commonest cause in that I've seen in the clinic is unfortunately sexual violence. So you find that a young girl has been raped and then her genitalia has been shattered, which is unfortunate, but it is one cause. And then, however, you can also have other causes, which could be infectious, It could also be physiological, that someone has started having menses before 9 years, what we call precocious menstruation. And in that case, we can actually find ways around it as well after evaluating. And then it could be that someone may have been exposed to exogenous hormones. So they get hormones from other injections and then eventually end up with this. Rarely you find that it is actually a malignancy, a cancer. But that is almost so rare. It's 1 in almost 3 to 10,000 women. Yeah, but commonly we talk about sexual violence, certain infections, and then precocious menstruation. Another person is talking about that in case your menstrual cycle was 28 days and it would take 4 days, but it changes to 26 and lasts only 2 to 3 days. What causes that? These are basically based on the your physiological axis, from the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland to the ovary. What really changes is just the slight variation in the quantity and the functionality of these different hormones. But that would still be a normal change from 28 to 26. It's not really abnormal. If it comes below 24 is when we think there might be a bigger problem, and then we go on to evaluate your hormone levels and then the anatomy of how your structures basically look like. But it's not a very bad occurrence if it occurred so, but it is due to the hormonal changes basically in your axis. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, we have another question here. Someone was saying, Doctor, please hint on the premenstrual syndrome. It is quite, it's also quite a challenging factor to menstruators.
Yes, thank you very much. I think Rachel has asked that. Thank you, Rachel, for that question. Premenstrual syndrome is a big social challenge. Actually, in psychiatry, it has its own definitions. But to sum it up for us here, for this discussion, a young girl or a woman who is undergoing a menses, just a few days before her menstruation, she begins to have depression or mood swings, or probably gets so scared of what is likely to occur, or even begins to disassociate herself from her people around her, from the friends, from the family, from the neighbors. And all this is because of changes that occur due to the withdrawal of one hormone in your body, progesterone. And so someone ends up having kind of, you could call it a psychiatric episode, because it's actually a psychiatric disorder, but it is not a major one. So it is something that is on and off. It doesn't occur all the time. When you have it all the time, then you basically need to go to an obstetrician gynecologist, and then they can help you out. It's not a complicated thing to manage as well. It's common in those people who have painful menstruation and those who have excessive bleeding, heavy menstrual bleeding. And it's manageable also accordingly based on what could be predisposing someone to it. It is not something that should worry you. Social support is important. And also you quickly go to the medical workers for that help. But otherwise, it's a challenging factor, premenstrual syndrome. So many people have it, about 30% of women have it. And some of them have it in a major way. And so that often warrants medical attention. I've actually seen about, in the last month alone, I've seen about 18 or so girls that actually have this premenstrual syndrome. And it was quite major for them. Yeah. There's another person who is talking about recurrent menses within 3 months period for a woman that is breastfeeding and not on contraceptives, who had a vaginal delivery that and this occur about 5 days apart. I think it would be good that this particular patient or this person comes to the doctor, because it could be not necessarily menstruation. It's rare that someone resumes menses immediately. We expect ovulation after your delivery, especially if you're breastfeeding. We expect ovulation almost after 48 days. So it is very soon. And then, so we would expect that we would put you on contraception 3 months later. However, if someone has recurrent menses within a 3-month period of delivery and they're even breastfeeding and not on contraception, it's important that they seek help. It could be that there are some retained products in their uterus that need to be sorted out by the doctors. And that's why they're having consistent bleeding. Or it could even be signs that this person has an infection or probably a cancer or something that could be evaluated and managed in the early stages. Yeah. Then I'm seeing Jackson's comment here for the partners on the call. Let's be supportive. Yeah, I think this is important. Yes, thank you very much. Social support is so key in management of all menstrual disorders. Thank you. Any other questions, please, or comments? You're welcome.
I don't know if you already saw this comment or answered it already. Margaret had a question for you.
Yeah, I think I answered Margaret's question.
Okay. Then Richard, please feel free to transition.
Well, I would say thank you, Dr. Emmanuel, for that. And I hope that everyone has been answered. Menstrual disorder is one of the most, encountered cases, especially menstruators. The outreaches we've been on to, most of the girls were asking us about, how do I manage pain? How do I manage pain?
Hey, Richard. Hey, Richard,
Hello.
do you know if this sound is coming from your audio? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's just
Yeah. I don't think it's from my audio, but let me see. No, it isn't from my audio.
It was Dr. M, but we got it.
Yes,
Please
yes,
go
yes.
ahead.
All right. So I was saying one of the most encountered, like the questions we've been encountering, most other than what to use and then puberty, most of them are actually coming from the menstruation disorders. Some are having the little, others were crying of
Sorry, Richard, I muted you and then unmuted you. You should be able to speak.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Emma, for that explanation. Yeah, well, the one thing I want to let people know, like as a take-home message from this presentation, especially the menstruation disorders, is that in case you do have you feel like there is a discrepancy, like a difference from what you've been experiencing and then what's happening, please don't sit there. Go and see a doctor. It's very, very important. Reach out, see a doctor. That's one. Then secondly, in case you're just starting and then you feel that it's becoming uncomfortable, this has been my normal flow, but now it has increased or it has reduced. I've not been feeling pain, but now the pain is much. Don't sit, don't be your own doctor. Go and see someone. It's very, very important. Something you can take as small can be, a little bit hard, or big. So that's our talk home message from Dr. Emmanuel's presentation. But thank you very much, Dr. Emmanuel, for this presentation. And we are glad that you gave us your time.
Maybe I have a question. I have a question for Doctor.
Yes, Mr. Gilbert.
Yeah, because we always receive feedback about menstrual pain and how best, because people have different bodies and their ways.
Hey, Gilbert, your audio is breaking.
Reduce pain. So
I guess we'll get back to you as soon as you get a good connection. Let me hope Dr. Emmanuel will stick around for a few more minutes. All right, I think, Hessin, I think we can. So we can you just please scroll to Esther's provider video, please.
Yep.
All right, so we are going to.
Hi. Hi, Richard. Hi, everyone.
Hey, all right. So let me just, so we are having Esther here. She's just very wonderful. Just a little bit about her, because I was actually impressed, and she's from Nigeria. That's number one, and she has been doing lots of public health related work. And just 1 second. Maybe you could say hi before I go on. Yeah, just say hi to us.
Okay, definitely. Just confirm that you can hear me and my internet is good. Okay. Hi, everyone. Super glad and excited to be here. Sorry, I had to have my glasses on because of my laptop. A bit about me, background in public health, but kind of have deviated into, still in the development space, but kind of deviated into education and entrepreneurship, but definitely still have the love for public health and keeping that up with the GAPS initiative, which I founded with a team of mine, where we basically implemented something similar with what Richard and the team are doing, and I must applaud you guys' efforts. This is definitely something that everyone needs to get on board to basically raise awareness about. So yeah, that's a bit about me, and currently work with Junior Achievement Africa, where we are in Uganda actually. We're in about 13 countries across Africa and in over 115 countries worldwide. So yeah, so I kind of wear double and different hats basically. So yeah, that's a bit about me. Nice to meet everyone.
All right. We are glad to have you on here, and then thank you for volunteering to do this. So we can go on with your presentation.
Alrighty then. I'm glad that a lot of people have gone before me because they kind of set a tone for the rest of this. When Richard had told me to basically talk about the research and policy advocacy, I was like, off the top of my head, I'm like, okay, I'm very big on the advocacy part, but the research part, I guess I needed to do some work on it. So a bit of background. Next slide, sorry. Bit of background. So we know that there are a lot of stats out there about what exactly the effect of the management of menstrual hygiene on not just the global world, but also the menstruator and the non-menstruator, the world of work, things like that. We know that it's a holistic sphere. The menstrual hygiene and health of a menstruator affects her as well as other people around her, directly or indirectly. And a lot of people have made comments already. There's okay, Winter says she can't see the slides. Am I the only one? I'm not sure.
Next slide.
Next slide, please. Sorry. I'm not sure if she can see that.
Can anybody see?
No.
Or the slide
No,
not moving?
I think the slide is not moving. I said the slide.
Okay.
Yeah, it's frozen on the menstrual hygiene research and policy advocacy slide. So
Gotcha. I'm gonna stop sharing and reshare it.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just gonna run through it. So basically, we know that about approximately 26% of our population are menstruators. Okay, I think I'm just gonna wait because everyone is asking for the slide here.
So Zoom is crashing on me. Richard, are you able to share the slides?
Okay, let me see. Give me a sec.
Okay, do you want me to keep going, or actually, do you want me to wait?
I think it would be great if you wait.
Okay. Jason, I think your slides are coming up. It says your slides sharing screen.
Okay. Sorry, my Zoom is crashing. I'm so sorry, Esther.
No problem. Okay, so I could just go on. I have it open here, but because of my internet, I'm using my phone instead of that. So basically, and So yes, we have 26% of the global population who actually are menstruators, and we know that about approximately 2.3 billion of these people actually lack essential resources and products to go through this. And I was so happy to see the breakdown that Winter had shared, where the economic differences between different resources. So what is the reason why a lot of people are focusing on menstrual hygiene? I remember back then I think in March, when we were doing the International Women's Day. Next slide, sorry. Thanks, great job. You have it on. So one of the reasons why both we menstruators, the girl child, and some other people like Richard and a lot of more people, is because it basically affects a lot of sides to someone's life, and not just her life, but also every other person. And I remember during the IWP event, we had said a lot of people we are advocating for equity because there are a lot of things, there needs to be a balance, and a balance in the sense that in the area of menstrual hygiene and menstrual health, right now there are no facilities or how do I put it? So a man can just go by the side of the road to pee, right? In our local communities, that's what happened. But a lady can't do that, especially because of things like this. And many of us already mentioned where, because of the her being on her period, she can't get into churches, she can't go to school, or she doesn't even have access to all these products. So things like this, which in turn affects the health and well-being of menstruators and the community, basically, is one of the reasons why we are taking this as, I would say, as seriously as we can, and we employ a lot of people to do that. Next slide, please. So why I put this image here is so that you can see. So if you see the blue side of things, this is where I come in, where Richard and his team come in, where Dr. Emmanuel comes in, where we have different people with different backgrounds and different perspectives into this. He's an OBGYN, right? I'm a public health person, but at the same time, someone who works in the development space, that's the public non-profit sector. How can we come together? How do we come with our different perspectives, especially with this particular focus as menstrual hygiene? And how do we come together to show what we've done, show the data that is available, right, to inform different things? If you look at the other side, we have a light bulb. So you know, when you have this light bulb moment, when policies are created to empower young people, where we in order to improve the health and well-being of the menstruator, basically giving all the facilities, all the products that are needed, and basically ensuring that the well-being of the menstruator is advocated for and on top of everyone's mind, not just the menstruator or a regular, or people like us, or females, if you understand what I mean. So next slide, please. So why research? Why do we need to actually do research? This data is always changing. If we remember vividly, that's why research happens consistently, right? So we know that different discoveries are happening, especially in this digital age. Menstrual cups weren't a thing from back in the day, but now they are definitely an option. Many people didn't know that tampons were giving the toxic shock symptoms. Nobody knew, but eventually the unfolding of different technology and data kind of basically showcases this thing. These are certain examples of why we need research, right? So that we know, okay, I remember that during one of the trainings I did on gender-based violence and menstrual hygiene practices, someone had said that that's locally in Africa, they had looked at how to use banana peels, I think, as reusable sanitary products, right? So things like this, these studies basically show us locally as well as internationally how within our society we can also improve menstrual health, improve menstrual hygiene, afford effective and affordable menstrual practices to local people, local communities as well, and improve the health services that are delivered to menstruators, basically. So the next thing I began to think about is, okay, so this research would inform something when you get the data, and research can come from different things. It can come from trainings, or in the training, like I did, we did a pre and post survey with standardized data to basically get the information that we need. Okay, what exactly within the menstrual hygiene spectrum do people know about? What exactly are things that we need to enlighten people more about? And the focus of our training at the time was for young people. And this was because during the pandemic, within my own country, that's Nigeria, we noticed that there was like a threefold increase in gender-based violence and assault, right? And while we were planning and designing this project, we were like, okay, we kind of went digging into more data, right? Which is one of the reasons why research is really needed. And we found that if we combine the gender-based violence bit, a lot of more people were asking about some myths like I heard that if I allow a man's quote unquote sleep with me, it will stop the bleeding. Those type of myths, because the adequate information is not made available to these young girls, right? Which is one of the reasons why we designed our training to do that. Provide information, increase awareness about gender-based violence, as well as promote healthy menstrual hygiene practices amongst young people within Lagos and Ibadan. But because of the pandemic, we're not able to do physical things, physical training. So we basically went virtual, and we kind of had a lot of people from not just Africa, but I think one person from Canada at the same time. So next slide. So why policy advocacy? Policy is basically a strategy to thank you. It's basically a strategy to do certain things. And what is majorly is because you want to build evidence. And what's the evidence for? The evidence is basically through maybe you are carrying studies, you are carrying out trainings, you are carrying out, and in the emergence of digital marketing and technology, it's so easy for you to just send out a survey out and try to get people's knowledge about something, so as to inform what exactly do people know, especially within your own local setting, and and then you can find the gap within their responses to be able to design things like this. And so when you find the evidence and you're building the evidence based on your research and your analysis of the data you get, then now the point is, we can't stop at getting this evidence. We can't stop at getting data. We can't stop at the research. What next? What comes up after that? And the next thing would be engaging. What would you redesign that data to create to prefer a solution or trigger a positive change? So engaging with development of programs, development of curriculums, planning such a webinar as this, and policy debates on, okay, for instance, we're talking about earlier menstrual disorders, and how, okay, this is the academic side of things, but actually in real world context, it kind of differs, right? But we definitely have something as a baseline for us to work with. And then now when we engage and we plan things like this, what's the next thing? Okay, we have enough engagement to actually now influence policies, basically get to the table and have a voice at the table, so you'll be able to influence the implementation of policies. So the goal is to basically change policies or cause reforms to happen to ensure that proper implementations of these things are done. So take, for instance, I would say there were two ladies, this is in the later on slides, but two ladies who are young high school students, participated in a project, and one of their own project was to provide a solution for an SDG. They didn't give them any focus or anything. And funny how it was menstrual hygiene that was the focus, right? And that was during the pandemic. So interesting how a lot of things were triggered because of the pandemic, where people had to take ownership of things community-wise, like on the ground, right? So they were able to rally around and get menstrual products to people for free, right? Because we know that during the pandemic, a lot of people could not afford things, a lot of people couldn't go out, maybe because they had other conditions so as not to get themselves exposed to the pandemic and things like that. So they took the initiative to do this type of thing. So that's the type of thing I'm talking about. So eventually, the Department of Education in New York started to give free products to about 211 food school. So basically where students go to get their food and buy snacks and things like that, students can go in and get free menstrual products. So those are the type of information we are really hoping to see. So when you're trying to get a policy advocacy, you need to define the goal. I know, so menstrual hygiene is quite large. What exactly is your focus? What do you want to focus on, right? So my focus for my training was to let them know how best to empower them with skills or information to have proper hygiene, especially when it has to do with menstrual health, right? So that was the focus. And who were my stakeholders? Definitely the Ministry of Health in Lagos and in Ibadan were part of us. WHTF, that's Women and Health Together for the Future, who is an organization I'm a full active member of, who gave us, where I got a mini grant to implement the training. Then the young ladies that were going to be participants, the menstruators basically that was going to be participants. So I understand that we're trying to do big things and all. Like I said earlier, when I'm doing my own thing, Richard and the team are doing their own thing, Dr. Emmanuel and a lot of other people are doing their own thing. So multiple fires will become a large fire, right? So the point is you need to be specific, get your niche, right? So that you know what you're doing. And then what are the actions you want to do? Do you want to create awareness? Do you want to lobby? Lobby means you're going to the government, you are working with the government. An instance is when the Ministry of Health, so the lady that I had met at the Ministry of Health, because I had worked in public sector at a point, she had gotten her daughter to be involved in our training. And so sometimes she just peeps in and looks at what we're doing. And she was like, so she works in the agency that deals with gender-based violence as well as violence against women, actions against for violence against women. So, and after that, I know that we've engaged in multiple conversations. Those are the things we want to see, whereby, yes, we can't wait for the government to do these things, or we can't wait for agencies to do it. So we have to start these things. But at the same time, we need to engage these people. So just a conversation. It started as a conversation, and before we know it, we started. We have a walkathon in about 2-3 weeks or so. So things like that it makes a bigger. It scales up our impact, if you understand what I mean. So we have digital media. You can harness digital media, and we also have community mobilization, which is what we're doing with this walkathon. Next slide, please. So the following slide is basically an example I saw online, and I felt it really explained what I was saying in this previous slide. So basically it's it's gone off. Not sure. Okay, Richard is sharing now. Okay, so it's basically showing, I don't know if you can put this on slideshow. Is that possible? I'm not sure if anyone can see this like this, but hopefully Zoom doesn't crash again when we do that. I hope not. Okay, I guess I will just continue with that.
Is it showing or it isn't?
Yeah, it is showing. Well, I guess we're gonna have to be able to, well, the slides will be shared, so that's still fine. Okay, so this is the Women's Foundation of Colorado, right? So basically they are basically showcasing how their systemic change, like creating systemic change through public policy and advocacy. So they conduct research. That's literally the first thing that needs to happen. Conduct research and gather inputs. Inputs can be a focus group discussion. It can be a survey that you just throw out there to different people and basically getting information. And through the analysis of that data, you basically find the gaps and the areas where there needs to be more. So I'll call it like a beta testing in the tech industry, right? So that you can know how does the current space actually meet the needs of menstruators, or are there things that are there informations that are not available? What do they think about certain things? So if you see that the information is wrong, then you know that maybe awareness or education is the problem. Or if they have the information, do you know where you can get, can you afford these things? So the point is, can you, those type of things, because you're asking different questions. When you analyze these questions, it would help you basically identify the gaps and the areas where you need more work, where more work needs to be done. We know that there's a lot of work to be done, but the point is you need to take it one step at a time so that you can at least deal with one problem, then move on to the next. And the next thing was basically identifying barriers to women's economic self-sufficiency. And like we mentioned, other speakers have mentioned earlier, setting other barriers. So for instance, we know that culture is a big thing where people, there's a stigma behind, okay, a menstruator during not participating in community things or religious things, where especially during that period of the month. So those type of things, do we think that education would change people's perception about this? Do we think that if you understand what I mean? So I'm just basically trying to pull this together. Second thing is invest in expert organizations leading change. So people like Richard preferring things like this, partner with people like Richard and his team, Dr. Emmanuel, different organizations, even we volunteering with other people that are doing amazing work to be able to, and that's time or money, or like I was invested in by WATF, which through the annual grants that they give out, so as to deliver that training. So basically, it's a necessary step to take. Then basically, and that all that filters into how the advocacy for change would come up in the public sector, where, okay, we have this data, we are presenting, we are also actively being involved. I know that there's been, especially within Africa, during at least the last 2 years, the youth have actually taken the upper hand and demanding accountability, as well as taking ownership of what exactly is happening in the society, which I definitely feel is a laudable effort. So from there, we definitely, and then engaging in politics, engaging in policy reforms. At the long run, we eventually see that although it's small, they say little fires become a wildfire. So it starts small, but it becomes big at the end of the day. All right, next slide. So this is the part where we discuss. So the point is, so how do we increase research around menstrual hygiene? Like I said, what are the outcomes we're looking at? What exactly is the focus? Do we want to, and because of how much diversity or variety of cultures, even within Africa, Uganda is very different from how Nigeria operates, right? But the point is, we need to go to the ground to, okay, what exactly is our focus? What is the need? So in Nigeria, at the time of the pandemic, I saw we saw the trend. And one of the reasons that was identified for that threefold increase was because of the restrictions. Limited access to information was one of the reasons, which is one of the reasons why we designed the program to be an educational intervention. So knowing that would really help us a lot. Where do we need more research? Like I said, if we do a market survey, basically, that's what I'm going so much into a business analogy, but it's the easiest way, right? So explain this thing. Before you can bring out a product, most times you do a market research. How viable will this product be in the market? Is there a market for this? Who are the people that need this product? Where exactly are they based? So things like that. And then when we do this research and we get the data and we analyze the data, what can we do with this? How can we get policy makers into the conversation? So how can we use this to inform policies and inform laws? So then advocacy, like I said, define your goal. Who are your stakeholders? Actions. What exactly are the actions? I know that I was talking to a friend the other day and I was like, oh, cervical cancer. We're talking about a program we wanted to do for towards the cervical cancer celebration day, right? And she was like, a lot of people do walks, that she wants something new. And I'm like, yeah, a lot of people do walks, but to be honest, that walk makes people aware that there's something like that actually going on. So you can do something different, and that's for her, but there's still people that need to do the walks, because the walks would inform more people. The walks would always be a marker. When you are seeing people in pink, you know this is this particular thing that you're working and fighting and advocating for or against. Again, also, how do you engage policymakers? So if you are planning such a walk, or if you are planning an event like this, getting ministries involved, getting other organizations involved, like Richard and his team have done. If you notice, there are different organizations here that not just in Africa, but outside. So we need to actually come together to collaborate to do that. I just kind of put the case study with regards to the fact that there are certain countries that have actually achieved offering tampons and pads for free. So we weren't there years ago, but we see we see a lot more changes happening now. So yeah, that's really great. Yes, right. So next slide, please. So what next? What happens after? So academic research happens. We need to do more of translating this data to policy advocacies. Many times, a lot of times, policy makers don't even have this data. We have it, but they don't have it, right? Or they can, or to lack of accessibility, or do we want to translate what our data means, recommendations to be given? I remember back in school, or my undergrad, I did and I went checking measuring the knowledge and perception of young people across a certain location about colon cancer, and a lot of people didn't know what it was. Even during the questionnaires and focus groups, qualitative analysis, a lot of people didn't know what that was. A lot of people didn't even know that they had to do a screening for that at a certain age. You should be doing it regularly. They didn't know that they were even centers for those type of things. So because they don't know, even is maybe the Ministry of Health, but regular people didn't know about this. So we really need to get to a point where our data can be translated into policies. Next thing will be engage actively. I love already the conversations on here. We're involving menstruators, non-menstruators, and men need to be involved. I liked the comment where Jackson said, bring some chocolates, rub your wife's partner's back, especially during this time of the month, because damn, the back becomes very, very painful. They get cramps, and some people get hospitalized because of things like this. So we need to, and I know there was a movement that UN Women started, he for she, because we need to engage everyone to promote healthy menstrual hygiene, basically. And then volunteering, you can donate, you can join campaign drive to increase access to these products. Many people have access to a lot of these products, and they have enough that they can give out, that we can now give to people that actually need it. And partnerships, collaboration is very key, because we can't do it alone. So partnerships with organizations that actually produce these things, or organizations like that definitely are actively promoting the health and well-being of menstruators, would definitely go a long way to scale our impact further across the world. And I believe that we just need to keep educating everyone. Everybody needs to be educated, because even while Dr. Emmanuel was talking, I think it had been a long time since I heard some things, right? So attending things like this would definitely refresh our minds about things like this. So I already spoke about this, about the Maya and Co. And so that is it from me. I don't know if anyone has any question, but thank you so much for having me over, guys. It's really, really good. Okay, I'm seeing a question. Start policy advocacy, how can we? Okay, so I'm going to take it one after the other. Okay, so you say, what's the best way to start? So I would say that I'm not a disclaimer here. Let me just put it out there. I wouldn't say this answer would answer to everyone, but I feel that everybody is open to collaborating with each person. Like, everyone is open to collaborating, especially when we have like goals set, especially when we have like minds, we have the same target, the same goals. So I believe that liaising with, even with this particular training you are doing, you've already started the advocacy, you already started doing something. So if you want to take it to the next level, so then what does that next level look like? Do you want to engage, and I know you are a university, a medical school, do you want to engage the school? Do you want to engage not just the medical school? Do you want to engage the entire student body? Do you want to engage the entire university? Okay, within that entire university, do you want to engage the state within which your university is? So it takes knowing the goal. What's the goal that you want to do? Because then it will actually guide you to what are the things you need to end up doing. So off the top of my head, you've done this. A lot of people across board are already partnering with you. Do you want to do? Do you want to do a study? I think that would be the next thing. Do you want to do a study to get people's understanding of, okay, what are the needs of menstrual hygiene? What are current things that they feel that needs to be made available? Is it that, out of every bathroom in the public, out of every public bathroom, you need a space where a lady can just get access to a pad in every public bathroom? Those type of things, you're already recommending things for the policy, or for for the state councils. I don't know how so I know they call it local council in the UK. I know they call it what do you call it in the US again? I'm not even sure. But basically, if you understand my point, so you are basically preferring recommendations for this type of thing, and you need to come with your data. You need to come with, okay, what's the cost? So one of the things that I remember that was very interesting about New Zealand, no, not New Zealand, I think it was the first person, Scotland, when they wanted to try it, the interesting part about it was that they had to present how much it will cost the government to provide free products to approximately every menstruator in their country. And when they put that together, and we know that the effect of a menstruator not being able to get to be at work, the loss of revenue in private sector, public sector, they then equated that. They saw that the cost of providing these facilities to women is how would I put it? It's relatively smaller compared to the effect on maternal mortality, on the cost of out of work, the cost of reduced revenue. So this type of things. And these people most people in government, they will tell you they know economics and things like that. So you need to come with your numbers where you are telling them, if you do this, it translates into things like this. So yeah, I think that was the answer to the first thing. The second thing you said, how can we find people to lobby, advocate to, and what's the best way to communicate in a way that prompts the, so I would say start from the community, because you never know who is who within the community, really. And there are people that, I don't know how it is in the US, but locally, at least I know there are, in like in Nigeria, you have women leaders of markets, you have women leaders in churches. That's why I said collaboration and partnership is key for advocacy, because you can't do it alone. And I always tell people that you don't know who is who, right? So when you're partnering with churches, with community colleges, with with mosques, with all these different organizations, eventually you would see yourself, you would get your information trickling all the way to the right ears, and before you know it, you are being brought to the table. And then I know America is really big on getting what do you call this thing? I'm trying to remember the word, it's just on the top of my tongue, but out. So where you get signatures and you get people to come together to agree that, okay, this has to be done in our community or in our city or in our town. So things like that can happen. So petitions, yes, Judy, thank you very much. So petition signed, and most times it's really the yes, teamwork. So do you see what I mean? We don't know everything, so everyone is helping everybody. So basically, those type of things will definitely help you get yourself to the right place and to the right people to be talking to. And so yeah, I think that definitely will help a long way. But let me give you this pointer. Think outside the box. Most times, brainstorming with different people also helps you. See, for instance, I didn't even remember what the petition was until Judy said it. Yes, I remembered what it meant, but the word didn't come out of my mouth, right? So when you are working with people, different ideas come, and innovative ideas will come, and it will just basically to amplify the impact that you're already having on ground. So I do hope that helped, or that answered your question. Yep. Hey, thank you very much for having me. All right, I'm not sure if anyone else has any question. Please do let me know. But if not, I will hand over back to Hasten and Richard. I don't think Richard is back.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Esther. That was so wonderful and impressive. So guys who are here, you understand that it all comes from research and then policy advocacy. Because if you don't do that, nothing's gonna change. Scotland, at least I think Scotland and some other country, they're giving out free menstrual products. But then, it all starts from us. So what I encourage us here is, this is not single step. So I'm going to give you an example. We started this, something small, but now the impact is very, very big. So if we join up, if we team up, let's not say that's for Hyacinth, that's for Jeremiah's, that's Esther's. No, it should be us, as Esther said. So it's us, and it starts from you. You join me, I join her, she joins the other one, and then we become a very, very wonderful team. So policy advocacy, these guys in parliament don't know some of the things, or they're enjoying cash. But then if we raise our voices and say, no, this can be done, can definitely do. Thank you very much for that. And then the other thing is research. Research helps a lot. We didn't have menstrual cups. We even didn't have disposable sanitary towels. I am sure we did not. But they're in place right now. Why? Research. So thank you very much for that wonderful presentation, and then sparing your time to be with us here. Yeah, and Hassan has another thing she wants to put down before we invite our last speaker.
Sorry, Richard, did you ask if you or I wanted to introduce our last speaker?
If you have another thing to say before we invite our last speaker.
No, I'm good. I think we're ready to transition.
All right. Okay, so we are having someone who's going to give us a keynote here. He has his experience in menstrual hygiene. He has been in play for a very long time, and you know, they've been doing outreaches. We're a young organization. They've been there for some good time. Mr. Gilbert from my period is awesome. So please join us. You know, they've been wonderful people to us, and you know, been cooperating with them, you know, in a vast number of. Okay, I'm asking you to unmute right now, Gilbert. All right. So
Thank
yeah,
you
is
so much.
joining us. Please, yeah, take it on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Richard. Really appreciate everyone's effort for this cause. We are really doing a great job, and let's keep doing this. We should not stop, because menstruation does not stop for anything. So it keeps on going and growing. So Gilbert is a project manager for my period is awesome, and the Wellbeing Foundation based in Uganda. I'm so glad to be part of this cause and hearing from all of you. I'm going to talk about mental hygiene. I think we've all talked about all these aspects, but usually I interact more with people, and we always find the best way to tackle some of the ways to find a best solution to handle these issues in these communities. I did not, my slide is not ready, but I'll share it with Richard so you can be able to have this information. So how do we always tackle some of the informations? Because one question I wanted to ask Doctor, but my network was not clear, is that people always come up with ideas. I don't know whether they are true, but it's good that we have the doctor here. And this was the question, like, when it comes to menstrual pain, some of the women always say like, okay, if I have sex, then the menstrual pain will reduce. And then the other will say, if I don't, then it is going to persist. So I don't know in that aspect how and which is the right way. Others recommend like painkillers. Others recommend like there are very many methods like from different people and different communities. But I think since we have women have different bodies and also different ways of handling the pain. So I think the best way is always that, because we have always sessions whereby we say your method, your choice. So the best method and the best choice that you choose is the way for you to go. So back to there's a point whereby we talked about how do we involve men into this, because from this research I made in my community, we always like, because I realize men most of the times are the ringleaders in like violating the women when it comes to having sex when they are in their periods. You know, they come to the menstrual station and they complain. How best can we involve these men so that they can know what we are really going through is really painful, and they will just come with their own. They want sex. Even if you try to explain, I mean, women are literally like going through this, but in pain and in silence. I don't know if I'm really communicating. I don't know if we also have those kind of issues in our community or differently. So the reason why we had to come and set up this menstrual station deep in the slum areas, because sometimes we realize like these people are, some of them can't afford these products. So that's why we had to put like a free access, like a menstrual station in this community, so that it can be easy for some of them to get the information and access to the product, but also with the help of the community to support them, have that dignity and the confidence within them that they can still be supported in this whole menstrual hygiene and health. So all these challenges, we have sat down with my most of the team and our partners, and then we came up with something that really unifies all, brings together the men, the women, like to share. And you realize like most men, as we share, are the one who contribute most. It is always it is a game called the mainstream, because we are like, we need to find the simplest way that can engage men who are trying to move away from this, isolate themselves from this kind of issues. So this mainstream has questions, and you have to answer a question so that you can actually progress to the next stage. So in the process of the this kind of solution or the game, you realize that men enjoy playing the game more, and they end up asking more questions. So in that sense, it is informative and educative to them. So, and this is the best way, like we always engage some of the men. So they get to learn, and then also talk to them, and then share with the women, like, how do these things happen? I mean, I didn't know about menstruation. I didn't know about. So you realize they give you a direction on what solution or problem that is within either family or community or individually. So that was the best. That was the way how we try to engage the men, the young boys in schools, to be part of this and know that this is something very normal, and you should be supportive to the menstruators and respect them. Yes. So usually, I don't know if because we are trying so hard to make it a digital game so that it can be played anywhere and with very many people, like literally can be 3 people. So this is how we are trying to come up with a solution for that. So yeah, for how best we can involve the men. And sometimes, as we are really, really advocating for all this, I wonder why usually when you go to washrooms, you find like free condoms, but you can never go to a washroom and find free sanitary towels or pads or what, or products. So this is what we have to really find the best solution for. How do we advocate for this? Yeah. So I don't know, we need to share ideas and see how best we can do this. Or work with, I like what the previous speaker was saying, like the policies, like work together with the government to see either they remove the taxes from the sanitary products, or find the best way, like how can really they access all this. Yeah. So I think we can share around that, and then we see that. Thank you. Thank you. Back to you, Richard.
Richard, are you there?
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, Gilbert, for that. That was awesome. I captured wonderful points. Number one, the non-administrators' involvement in administration is a very key. You know, like shows support, shows we are together. So it's very, very wonderful. Thank you for bringing that up. And then you spoke about, you know, what's happening. You know, we find free condoms. You know, it's wonderful that it controls the spread of STDs, but then we never find like sanitary. So that brings me to a point, which is we need to work more. What's also happening is lots of wash, like, you know, water, hygiene and sanitation. Like, you know, when you go to these village toilets, even in town toilets still, like, they do not have water. So I'm just imagining if we do have a administrator, and then she has been menstruating, and she's having a heavy flow, and she has to change a pad. So I literally imagine that this same girl, there's no water available, there's no what. Just in case she maybe has a sanitary towel to use. Maybe just changes and then throws the other one in and then puts on this other one without cleaning and stuff. So there is a lot of things to work on, a lot of things to come together. So I encourage all of us here to team up. We are doing this for the community. We are doing this for everyone. We, before I go an extra mile. You had posed the question, and you are actually, we're asking, I think, Dr. Emmanuel, about, you know, sex in relation to dysmenorrhea. So, Doctor, I don't know whether you do have anything to put up in that. So that, you know, Gilbert was saying, you know, that some ladies were saying, you know, sometimes they happen to have dysmenorrhea, and then when they have sex, the pain disappears, and then something like that. Is there any logical explanation for that?
It's quite interesting. Actually, we do find myths around these disorders, a lot of them in the community. When it comes to dysmenorrhea, sex does not have a role in its management, and having intercourse does not actually solve this. Rather, it may actually be one of the ways by which someone may talk about painful sexual intercourse. Delivering, let's talk about dysmenorrhea. Primary dysmenorrhea, if someone actually delivers, the incidence or the times by which they have pain during menstruation actually reduces or even stops altogether. So you find that in adolescents, once they eventually end up and deliver vaginally, they start stretching of the cervix, and that stretch of the cervix tends to damage some nerves and reduces the pain they feel during menses. So delivering, yes, but sex has not been shown to do anything with dysmenorrhea. It is still a very big myth and needs to be taught much to these young girls. Otherwise, they will end up with sexually transmitted infections as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Manuel, and thank you everyone who was attending. So we want to, you know, want to broaden our scope and want to reach out to more people with all what we can. So we are coming up with a program, the Ambassadors Program. You know, we advertised, you know, a couple of months ago, and then right now I think Hyson will give it, you know, the last part of it, but want to reach out to almost all communities. And then these ambassadors, what we do, we have at least 1 or 2 people from each and every district, and we will be reaching out through them in a vast number of things. So if you want to be part of us, if you want to join us in what we do, it's purely voluntary, like, you know, whatever we do is to make sure it's for the good of the community. Wherever we have actually been able to go, we at least left some prints. So, but I want to thank everyone. I want to appreciate the organizations we've collaborated with. My period is awesome. Thank you, Gilbert and Mary. Period Talk. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, and other members who've come on board. Lori, Rotaract, FUMSA, SNO, and others. So, guys, thank you very much. We can't take this. Eco Options. Thank you, Winter. You presented very great there, and everything was awesome. And then thank you to the attendant, you know, guys who've attended. This is, you know, it's awesome. We know from here we'll be able to disseminate the information. So finally, make sure you just so that we can send you a certificate of attendance. That will be very, very awesome. I'm just putting the link again in the chat. And yes, Hyson, back to you, just in case you have any other thing you want to say. And I don't know whether Jail is still on. Is Jail still on?
Not, not too sure, but yeah, like Richard said, thank you everyone for coming. This webinar, I think, all the presenters were amazing. Thanks so much for volunteering your time, as well as Dr. Maria and Dr. McGuire, who, generously offered to present. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have them, but I think, this attendance really proves that, there's a lot of people who believe in the mission. And through our ambassador program, as well as our future outreaches, we're going to be addressing a lot of things that were brought up here, right? The stigma, the clean water, that's going to be providing clean water is going to be part of our new ambassador projects and etc. So, please follow us on social media, keep up with what we're doing, as well as all of, please give support to all of our presenters today. Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. I said so. We do have Dr. Jaili. She's a family medicine fellow. She's one of the co-founders. I think in case you're there, you could say hi before we. Yeah.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This was such a great session today. I think we all learned a lot, and it was great. Like some of the presenters mentioned, just for networking and getting to talk with like-minded people and spreading the word about menstrual hygiene. So I really appreciate everyone for attending, and look forward to working with you all in the future.
All right. I guess this has been awesome, and our social media is over there. Please follow us. We'll be, giving educative information, and then in case we do have anything coming up, you'll be able to be the first to know.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a good rest of your evening or day.